He's the voiceover studio engineer of the Stars in Los Angeles, California, a Virginia Tech grad with a knowledge of recording studios unmatched in his field. He's a voice actor from Buffalo, New York, with 30 years experience in recording studios and behind the mic. He solves people's home voiceover studio problems in the blink of an eye. Together, there's no studio problem they can't solve, and they'll do it for you tonight. Welcome to East West Audio Body Shop. Now, live from a basement in Buffalo and an office in LA, here are Dan Lenard and George Whittam.
I'm Dan Lenard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East West Audio Body Shop. Well, here we are for our second season, if you can believe that. We've done 17 episodes, and now we're back, and every week we will be back. Most of the time, you take off for Jewish holidays and stuff like that. But we're going to be on every week, and we're going to be here for you. We need your questions. We need your problems. Bring us your problems. We'll solve them for you. So, life is interesting here at East West Audio Body Shop, and has it been an interesting couple of weeks? The end of summer, we've been off for 3 weeks now, and now we're back. And how was the rest of your summer?
It's been a really interesting summer. I've been so busy with client work. I've never had an August like this ever.
That's good.
It's blown my mind. So I can't complain at all. I'm kind of glad we had that little bit of time to reset, but at the same time, I never want to take too much time off from the show again, because it just ruins the flow for me. It just the routine of it. It's great to have that routine of getting the show together every week.
Right.
And so I'm really looking forward to it coming back into a regular schedule again.
Right.
And becoming more interactive. We're coming up with new ways to have you guys involved.
Some great ideas of what we can do here. I
mean,
we don't want to necessarily stick to just technical stuff here. I mean, George and I primarily specialize in the technical end of things and helping you guys try to make the complex more simple so you can run your home studios a little bit better. But we like to talk industry stuff. If you've got questions about certain things, there's a couple of topics we're going to cover tonight that people are interested in hearing and interested in talking about, and it'll be great, seeing that kind of stuff in the chat room. But we want to hear your suggestions. What do you want to see on the show, and that sort of thing. But we're going to a little slightly different format. But we are going to have some great guests. I know in the coming weeks we've got Dan Friedman, who's a fellow engineer of ours, and the big gun Ed Victor will be joining us in a couple of weeks.
That's right.
And a few other special guests.
John Taylor.
Absolutely, John Taylor. That would be, guys, freaking funny.
I know.
You can't beat that.
He's what we call a friend of the show now.
Absolutely.
Sure. Once you have a guest on more than 2 or 3 times, that's what they call a friend of the show. But he always is a lot of fun, and he brings a lot of energy to my studio here. And speaking of which, things are a little bit different this week too. Actually, what do we got?
Oh my God. Whoa. There's 2 of me. What is going on here?
Dan is actually here in studio, if you haven't figured it out
we're
by
actually together here on East West Audio.
Together for the first time.
You're so close. You're so close I can actually smell you.
What a treat, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Unfortunately, I'm here out in California this week. My stepfather, Hank, passed away on Thursday, and there we are. And so we're out here for my mom. My wife and I are out here, and the funeral's not until Monday, so we're like, what are we gonna do for a couple of days? I'll go visit George, and let's go do East West Audio Body Shop together for once. We've never done it in the same studio. People don't understand the minor technical miracle this is, that we're able to do it for me in my legendary basement in Buffalo, and from you here in your studio here in Santa Monica, and a beautiful studio it is, by the way.
Thanks. I call it a studio very loosely, but it serves the purpose of what we do on the show and what I do for my clients too, and I get away with it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, the thing is when you're a voice actor, people rarely actually see your studio. And as you like to say, people don't necessarily want to see where the sausage is made or how the sausage is made. So
you hope that they don't want to see it. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. So
you have no idea how much cleaning up I did before you got here.
Yeah, I know. It's like we're going to be over, and it's like
it was like this deep. I think
I certainly know what it's like when you got company coming over, and Marcy is like, okay, you can't be in the basement. You can't be doing this. We got to be cleaning up. So I can just imagine what it was like here. Not that your house was messy, but
we had a little bit of a minor panic when you guys called and said, we're on the road. I said, Amy, 45 minutes. She's like, what? I'm like, it'll be okay. Breathe. She's like, I'm out of here. Yeah. No, it was just cool that you guys could come over today, make it spontaneous. I'm glad we had the time free. This has been very spontaneous for us to do this today, but
but we got a chance to do it.
Yeah, it's been fun.
But this is how we're going to start our second season here on East West Audio Body Shop, and again, we want to hear from you. Again, our email address for East West Audio Body Shop is ewabshop@gmail.com. That's EWABSHOP, or is it two S's?
One S.
One S.
I know I probably could have come up with a better email address than that.
Well, you go with what works.
Yeah. EWABshop.com. EWABshop@gmail.com.
We want to hear your questions for, what's going on with your studios. And we want to be able to answer those questions for you. There's also our Facebook page, which also has a weird name. It's East West Audio Body Shop, but it's East West, one word, Audio Body Shop, one word.
Right, because we're a human on that show, on that website.
That's true.
So,
and we're working on getting a LinkedIn page, and we have, of course, EWABS, East West Audio Body Shop.com.
Yeah, EWABS.com is sort of the hub. We've got feeds to the iTunes. If you use iTunes, you can get a link directly to the iTunes feed on podcast. If you don't use iTunes, there's RSS feed and all sorts of different ways to get our audio show. There's there's an archive of all the audio from all the shows. There's links to the YouTube recordings. Of course, links to the Ustream. I mean, we've got umpteen ways now to consume the show and make it as easy as possible for everybody. And there's a lot of shows that I watch online that I rarely actually have the time to watch a show. I really don't have a lot of spare time. So I'll usually listen to the audio only versions. And yeah, I'm missing out on what's going on camera. 80% of our show it's about audio.
Right.
It's about so you can really consume most of what we do on this show by audio format only too. So we give all these different options out there for you guys to consume us.
Correct. So anyway, what can we get into this week? We've gotten a lot of consistent problems. Have you noticed that when clients call, it's always a noise something?
It seems like it's more of the noise problems are more prominent than anything else, I think.
Yeah, and it's like buzzing, hissing, and they're all caused by different things. Mm-hmm. And everybody has them. Not everybody notices it though, which is, they'll say, I sent in a demo to somebody, and they said, there's a problem with this, and they're like, what do you mean there's a problem with it? Why am I having, what's wrong with it? Well, there's a hissing in there, or there's a buzzing in there. And what causes that is you got to understand how to monitor your audio. And first off, my philosophy is don't record with headphones on. I like to hang loose and hear myself in the atmosphere. This chair keeps breaking on me here. Got some crazy glue or something.
Chair.
It is. So it's gonna be like Diane's stopwatch, which I don't have with me this week. And you actually have some crazy glue. Would you fix that while I'm talking?
Yeah, please. I'll do that right now.
So you've got to learn how to monitor yourself properly. And the way to monitor yourself properly, we both recommend you get a pair of studio monitors. And they're made by a lot of different people. KRK seems to be a very popular brand. The KRK Rocket 5s or Rocket 4s are, you have to hold it for 30 seconds. Okay, all right. No, I told you. I'll just put, no. I just put pressure on it for 30 seconds and hold it into place, and we'll be good. All right. You need to have studio monitors. The reason for studio monitors, and we've talked about this before, is studio monitors are not like your stereo speakers that you had in your college dorm. They are high-powered monitors that high power is not there for volume. That high power is there for clarity.
Yeah, accuracy. Yeah.
Right. And I don't necessarily understand how it is that more power does it, but I remember if you had those big, powerful speakers and a 100-watt amplifier,
less distortion.
Less distortion.
Yeah, it's when there's more power than you need, you have less distortion in general.
Right.
That's why. Yeah.
Right. So what you're hearing over a studio monitor is what you put into that microphone, how your voice sounds, every little subtlety, if you have mouth clicks. But generally, if you're using studio monitors and you've got them tuned right, and they don't go far from you, they're like headphones because they're maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet away from you on both sides of the monitor.
Right.
And you hear what's going on, and you'll hear hissing and you'll hear buzzing. Mm-hmm. But of course, you need to understand what that hissing and buzzing is.
Yeah.
So
there's different types of noise that are going to be in the recording. There's hiss and buzz that's caused by that's actually part of the electronics. It's coming through the microphone, through the mic cable. It could be RFI, which is interference from a radio station, transmitter, right. Which happened to me with a client just the other day in Toronto. He said the CN Tower is 2 miles from his house.
Yes, you have no idea how much wattage is coming off.
He said there's like 15 top stations all broadcasting at like 1 million watts, up there.
Right.
And so that's one kind of issue. Then you just get general white noise. That's the self noise of the microphone, the quality of the preamp you're using. Some of the cheaper USB mics tend to have more hiss. So that's another type of noise problem that we battle. But then there's also environmental noise issues. That's the noise coming from the refrigerator, the fan, the air conditioner.
Traffic.
All that kind of stuff. Yeah, traffic, whatever. That's the stuff. First, disseminating which of the two you have or which is which is one challenge. One of the challenges with only using studio monitors, and which is why I recommend actually headphones and monitors both, is if there is an environmental noise that's in there, you may not notice it. You may not know whether it's coming through your speakers or if it's if it's in the room with you at the same time. And then it becomes difficult to separate the two from each other. And that's why many people will have like a persistent noise that's in their house all the time. And your brain tunes it out. You just forget about it. Yeah. Refrigerators, a water pump or something that's just, it's always on. Your brain tunes it out. The next person hears that recording, they're hearing you with a completely objective
They have been hanging out in your house.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why using Dan and I as a sounding board to send us audio samples for us to hear is so useful.
We hear it.
We're hearing it from a neutral standpoint. So in order to get yourself to be able to do that, I think that's where having a pair of headphones can also be useful. Just to throw them on your head, play back something and say, is that noise really in the recording, or is it just in the room right now? And it helps you separate the two out, because otherwise it can be a little difficult to do with studio monitors.
Yeah.
The other thing about studio monitors is they react with your room, just like a microphone does, but in reverse. So keep them close. Don't run them way too loud, because the louder they're running, the more they excite the room and the more room feedback you get, resonance and all this junk. And if you do that, you'll get a pretty accurate picture of what you're hearing.
What's really fun is I've got one of those bass step test sounds. It goes from extreme boom, 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 and it gets very loud. And I ran that test a couple of times with my monitors, and all of a sudden something will start to rattle somewhere in the room.
Something vibrates.
Yeah, like a can on a shelf suddenly starts to rumble, and you're like, maybe I ought to move that.
Yeah, it's a really good test. And as you listen to the tones, you're thinking, wow, it's getting louder now. It's getting louder because your room is resonating at these frequencies. So as you listen to it go through, you'll hear do, do, ba, da, like that, and the frequency, the volume goes up and down. And basically what you're doing is you're hearing all the different resonant frequencies in the room as the sound is playing. It's an interesting experiment, and it takes experience to understand what's really going on there. But it is sort of a reminder that our rooms are not very accurate listening environments.
Right.
So.
I have an MP3 of that.
Yeah, me too.
I think if people want that if they email us, we'll be happy to send it to them. And
I'm such a geek that I have it on my thumb drive.
Oh, you've got to be kidding!
In
me.
my wallet, and I can plug it into a computer at someone's house and start playing it back. How often I do that? Almost never. But I have it.
But if you want to be able to hear your audio the way other people should hear it, that's the way you should do it. Also, remember who the end user is for a lot of your audio. A lot of it is people listening to it on, like a lot of you probably are right now, on computer speakers, sometimes even laptop speakers. And I think some people get the idea is, well, it doesn't have to be that great because it's coming out of laptop speakers. You want your audio perfect when you send it to whoever your client is. If it's an e-learning client, if it's a phone patch or, just a phone answering machine or something along those lines, you want your audio nice and clean. Do not rely on the end user of your particular audio. So that's an important consideration to think about with that. So
if you don't trust your ears, I mean, it never hurts. Even the most experienced voice actor can benefit from having a neutral party listen to the audio. It doesn't have to be us. It just has to be somebody that you trust,
right?
That you have his critical ear.
But you should at least be able to trust us.
Well,
I trust you.
You can trust us. I mean, we are extremely objective about what we hear and what feedback that we give. And I know Dan and I, neither of us will give you suggestions just to make your life harder or just to make you spend money. We're going to tell you exactly what has to be done to take care of the problem and not go beyond any deeper than that.
Yep.
Just enough,
Right. All right. Well, tell you what, we're going to take a quick little break here, and we will continue on. We've got a couple more industry things we want to talk about. Gee, something just rang in my pocket. We'll figure out what that is during the break.
Set your phone to stun.
Anyway, all right, we'll be right back after this on East West Audio Body Shop. Stay tuned.
VoiceOver Extra, the voiceover industry's online news, education, and resource center 24/7. Hundreds, probably thousands of free how-to articles for voiceover success, ranging from home studio to voice acting to business. A free voiceover industry directory, calendar of industry events, resource links, a store, and much more. Bi-monthly webinars on all topics of voiceover, free subscriptions to newsletters, reports, announcements, daily news, and features at voiceoverextra.com.
And we're back on East West Audio Body Shop. And I turned off my camera on my iPad.
Oh, okay, we don't
so
need
you
that
can
anymore.
like clear that out and go back to the single screen.
All right.
Although we were doing that with my iPad.
I know, that was fantastic.
I mean you can't beat this thing. People will say, what's the deal with this thing? Can you actually use this iPad, for doing things?
It's been a pretty active thread about that on VOBB.
I know.
Actually.
I mean, and my favorite so far has been, if I can ever find it, this is what happens every time I do this. You can use TwistedWave on here. Let me see if I can get this without the glare. TwistedWave is a great little program to record with, and we're still talking about remote stuff. I totally believe that once we figure out, once we get the best, let's get a tight shot of that there, George. Okay. Once we can get a reliable way to record on the iPad, and by using either a USB mic into a powered bus, or if mic ever comes out, or another product, which I'm not ready to announce yet because it's not on the market yet, which is going to be a lot more expensive than a mic. It's actually designed for audio tool or audio studio analysis for doing that, but it records and it's a digital interface. I'll leave it at that because when the manufacturer brings it out, I will show this to people and they'll all go, "Oh,
that's what I'm gonna buy."
That's what I'm, a much better interface for an iPad and an iPhone. So
cool.
Literally, I totally believe that an iPad or a tablet in the future, or even your iPhone, can be something you can use as a mainline studio. So I mean, as your workstation, you set it up and record into it, and you've got it like this, and it's like having your.
It's all about the user interface. It's all about the user interface. If you can get comfortable with working with a touchscreen interface, a lot of people are saying I can't edit efficiently on it yet. I'm still a mouse. I like the precision, granularity of a mouse, or whatever.
Using TwistedWave on there, that's not a problem.
Yeah,
you get it's once you get the hang of it. I mean, I was able to edit something I did on my iPhone using TwistedWave, and
were you able to get the precision you needed?
Pretty much. Right. It does. Once you learn how to use some of the compression settings and trying to set a noise gate on it, that would help. Because it's still not perfect because you have to use a USB mic on it, and it's hard to push the level on it. You've got to push the gain, so you get a little bit of a hiss on it. Okay. But it does work. But what was it we were going to talk about before I covered it up with my iPad here? Oh, yes.
Apogee.
Our friends at Apogee, and George and I both like Apogee a lot because they're a great company. They make much better than I would call consumer-level stuff. Although I'm starting to see that the distinction between the two, for our purposes, for voiceover, isn't really that great.
Starting to blur, yeah.
Yeah. Now, a lot of you are familiar with the Apogee one because I like to talk about it because that's my main interface. Although there's another thing I was going to bring up that we'll discuss next week. I'm going to experiment with it.
Okay.
Is the Apogee one and the Duet, and the new Duet, the Duet 2. What a great name. These guys come up with really cool names. Like their new, the microphone for the iPad is Mike. Ooh. They spend a lot of time thinking about those. But the rest of this, but the fact is the quality of their products are very, very good.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened is that if and they only work with Mac. So for you PC people, you can go off and have a cup of tea or something like that right now. But the new software, Lion, the new operating system, the Apogees, they would work. They would send a signal, and they were doing their digital interface little thing of taking our wonderful golden tones and turning them into ones and zeros and stuff. But you couldn't adjust the volume through the Maestro software.
Right.
That was because it was no longer Lion compatible.
The driver functioned, but the Maestro software wasn't talking to the
Mac
Apogee.
Right.
Right. Is that what it was?
Well, it was
something like that.
Whatever it was. You could not control the volume using either the Apogee or its software, which is Maestro. You had to go into your Mac preferences and go, all right, I got to turn it up here.
So in other words, the Mac was looking at it as just like any other generic audio device.
Right.
That's basically what it was.
Right, like a USB microphone.
Right.
And but they've solved that problem. And now I can adjust the volume again. And the interface is a little bit different too. So I still recommend it because it still sounds great. And for the price, it's a really good interface for Mac.
Yeah, it is. I don't think Apogee is ever going to branch out into Windows because they have a very symbiotic relationship now with Apple. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Apple bought them.
Or if they don't own them,
secretly own them.
Yeah.
The only reason I know they don't own them is because they had to wait a few months to get Lion support. But maybe it's just a conspiracy. Maybe they've had it all along.
It could be.
Waited. I don't know.
Let's not totally get into the Mac versus PC debate. Yeah. Let's just trash PC on its own.
Okay.
We're seeing lots of problems. We get to your calls almost always. For Mac, it might be a buzzing problem, a little hissing problem.
Electrical issue,
something like that. That's just generally infrastructure problems in your studio.
Right.
With PCs, what is going on with this? What is the problem that Microsoft has with professional audio? And people are going to say, "Wow, mine works fine. What are you talking about?" Yeah. Well, with some people, it doesn't. And I tend to think it's the people who are not they're not very computer literate.
Yeah.
And even, they wouldn't be good on Mac or PC, and they run into these problems. It seems to be that there's a lot more configurations you have to put in with a PC.
Well, yeah, I think the problem that I've encountered the most with the Windows computer is having to go deep into the control panel,
right,
and into the sound preferences. Mac likes to simplify things, so most all the preferences are in one place. Windows likes to have layers and layers of menus that go back like this, deeper and deeper. So you have to go into this menu, then this menu, then this menu to get to this screen where you can control the volume of the recording. And
yeah, explaining to people that over Skype is always a thrill, especially if you can't see what they're doing.
Yeah, it's challenging. I've been using more and more Skype where if they're on Skype, you can have them share their screen. And I've been getting more successful at getting that to work, which is great. And then at least I can watch over their shoulder and go, no, click on that. Or you use a remote desktop thing. But anyway, I digress. You have to go into a few different layers of menus, find there's an actual recording level adjustment. And I find that it has to be set at like 15% in order to get proper levels into the Windows software. Otherwise, if it's left at 0, you end up having to set your gain on your mic, your USB mic, or whatever it is.
Or your M-Box.
Or your M-Box really low, or your levels are peaking.
Right.
Have you experienced? That's been my experience, and I find that when I fix that, I did that for Peter O'Connell, actually.
That's right. Well,
And
both of us worked on that.
Both of them worked with it, and I found that when I made that adjustment, that rectified our problem.
Right. Because the hissing is, correct me if I'm wrong.
I will.
The hissing is coming from the fact that if your levels are too low and you need to gain them, boost them up in your computer, it's almost like raising it in an analog fashion. And what you're doing is you're raising up the level of a very low signal where the signal to noise ratio is off, and the background noise is going to be amplified with the regular noise, and that hissing is always there. But if you give enough gain to the initial signal from your microphone, it's not going to be there. Am I close?
Yeah, the key to gain structure, as the technical term is you want the most gain to happen at the front end, right here at the microphone, and then down the line, you want to have less and less. You want to have to make up less and less volume as you go down the line. So you go mic into the preamp, and then preamp into your M-Box, so on and so forth. Or some of us have mic, preamp, mixer, M-Box. There's a lot. If you have a mixer console involved, you have at least 5 different places to adjust the level. If you have a preamp, you've got your gain input, your output, your mixer gain trim input, your master, or actually your channel fader, your master fader, and then you have your M-Box, which has another fader. What's that like? Is that 6? I'm losing track.
Don't use a mixer.
If you can get away with not using a mixer,
don't.
Yeah, don't.
There are a lot of people using these mixers with USB outs. Yeah. Those are causing problems for people.
Yeah. All a mixer with a USB out is basically a mixer with a built-in cheap
it makes it like a USB. It's like a nice mixer with a USB microphone on it.
Well, kind of, yeah. It's usually a very cheap circuit. I like them. If you like the integrated idea, I really like the Mackie Onyx, the 820i. That's, to me, the cheapest mixer with built-in audio conversion that works. That's Firewire. But that, to me, is the cheapest unit I would recommend wholeheartedly and find that I get good results out of. But backing things up again. So, yeah, you have to have the most gain at the mic end and let everything else kind of just unrestrictedly let this flow through. It's sort of like pumping water with a pump from the front end as opposed to sucking the water at the other end through a straw. You know what I mean? It's like when you're trying to suck the water, it's less efficient and you get more air mixed in and you get more problems. It's sort of the same thing with mics and preamps and stuff. So make sure your preamp is set correctly so you're getting the most level you can at the very beginning of the signal chain, which is here. And at the other end, you have the level set lower. And that's generally a rule of thumb that tends to work.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about levels for a second. Okay. A lot of people ask us, we always say the phrase, a lot of people. That's why they call us. That's all our customers, all our clients saying, help us with our studios. A lot of times, every time we look at audio, generally the first thing we see is a problem with their levels. Right. And so let's define levels in the best way we can.
Let me bring up a file.
Using our friend TwistedWave here.
Yeah, just because it's very convenient.
Okay.
And I'll while you talk, I'm going to grab a file here and bring it up.
What you're dealing with here is something what we call dynamic range. And when you look at your wave file, you want to see a lot of difference in that wave file. That means you're modulating properly. If your waveforms are very, very small, it means your levels are not loud enough. You're not giving yourself enough gain. In other words, the noise that the microphone is producing and everything else that's in the audio chain is, you'll get it over there sooner or later. Whatever you're using in your audio chain is not driving. It's not sucking enough of the level of your microphone into your computer. And what the level is, some people say, well, it's the volume. Well, it's not really the volume as it is the control of how much of your signal is your voice and how much is something else, which is being driven down the line. Initially, you want to have the biggest waveform you can have without overmodulating and clipping. And most of you say, well, it starts to distort when I get too loud or something like that. And that distortion is going over the dynamic range, which usually on most VU meters is 0. And you'll see spikes in your waveform. You want to get that. You want it almost that loud, not over all the time. You don't want it constantly in the red. You can have little transients. Well, here's a good example.
Okay, so this is. I'm not going to play it because I don't have it hooked up to do that. But sometimes I receive audio from somebody.
That's not very good at all.
And this is the modulation, the recording levels that I see on the wave file. If I play it back and look at the meter, we're hitting around minus 30.
Minus 30.
Right.
There's people that send me stuff at minus 30.
Yeah. So the problem is now I have to make up that gain electronically in the computer. So I'm going to do a normalize or a volume adjustment or something to bring the levels up. Well, I'm going to be bringing up all the bad stuff with the good stuff at the same time, and generally end up with a lot more hiss and background noise.
Hi, Ella.
Hey, Ella's here. So that's not what we want to see. We want to see something that looks more kind of like that.
Oh, I make it even louder than that.
Yeah, this is, let's see what kind of levels these are.
That's
here.
running at about
12, middle of
minus
yellow to
12, minus 10, something like
that's
that.
That's kind of where I aim people, because if you're kind of new at recording yourself,
you don't want to push it.
Yeah, it's hard to, let's put it this way. If you're a learning talent and you're still training your voice, you tend to have less control of your dynamics.
Right.
And your volume tends to climb and dive a lot more often than a well-trained voice talent. So because of that, I usually tell newer actors to give yourselves more conservative levels, something that looks like this. But as you get stronger at voice acting and more consistent, your levels should really look something more like, I would say...
I'll just hit normalize on it.
Yeah, I could just normalize. I'll normalize to minus 3. Oops, I didn't mean to do that.
I've been normalizing to minus 1, to tell you the truth. You go up to 0 there, minus 3, okay.
That's minus 3. I mean,
yeah.
If you can actually record into the computer
like that
and get levels like this consistently,
fabulous.
You're doing really good.
That's really what you should be aiming for.
Yeah.
Because with that, it comes out to the old adage about crap in, crap out.
Yeah.
If you're able to record at that level initially, you are solving an awful lot of problems. One, the microphone is picking up everything you're giving it.
Right.
I mean, it should be that loud, even if you're talking very quietly, which you're all supposed to be doing anyway. You're not supposed to be projecting. You're not on the radio. You're not going through a transmitter live. Mm-hmm. You're recording your voice as other people need to hear it, like we're conversing with you now. And your levels should, even if you're talking at a normal pace, it should still be modulating that loud. This is kind of weird here.
I know.
But that's what you're looking for. We don't, when we get these files from people and they look like this, I go, your problem is that you're not generating enough output from your microphone and your preamp and your digital interface, and you're giving me that. I've seen stuff like this.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it? I can't hear it.
The thing that's confusing to people as well is you've got so many places to adjust volume, right? So you've got a headphone volume. So people turn their headphones up real loud and they go, well, it sounds loud enough. And it can be quite confusing between recording input levels and playback levels. If you find yourself having to turn your headphone volume up and down all the time, something's not right. Let's put it that way. When you record and playback, you should get really consistent record and playback levels in your headphones. So that's one possible area where you're really going to run into problems if you're not doing that. So
Right.
check those levels.
That's our lecture on levels. And now we want to lecture you on something else, because one of the things that we have in our new season, making our lives so much more pleasant, is a sponsor, an actual sponsor who says, I believe in your show. I want to support your show. Plus, everybody's sick of watching the national commercials that they have on Ustream. So we have, somehow we were able to sucker somebody into it. No, actually, one of our good friends, and probably one of the best friends in the entire voiceover business that anybody can have, is Harlan Hogan, and his website, where you can get all the stuff we talk about, most of the stuff we talk about, but the types of equipment and things that will make your life as a voice actor much easier. And that is voiceoveressentials.com. And he's got some great products, and I always recommend them because he has his signature microphone, the VO1A, which is a fabulous microphone.
Great mic.
I always talk about, well, you don't need a really expensive studio condenser mic. VO1A, tremendous microphone because it's designed for voiceover, not for putting Celine Dion's voice over a 40-piece orchestra. It really is designed for the proximity that we use a microphone for. It's tuned really for voiceover, and it's at a great price point too. And so that's probably one of the reasons that you should go over to VoiceOver Essentials and check that out, because he's got a great package with that, with the MicPort Pro, which of course we both, I certainly endorse it on their website. I use one when I'm on the road. It makes things a lot easier. A combination of those two is an entire audio chain.
And he packages them together and gives you a special price.
It gives you a special price. Very, very good. And he also has the new Portabooth Pro 2. We didn't even rehearse that. 2. And he's about to release it. I think he actually is getting the shipments of them in, and he of course wants you to buy them because it's even better than the original. And I thought the original was pretty good. And we've learned an awful lot about how to use it properly. It not only is great for being on the road because it packs up really nice. You can actually put an extra pair of underwear in there.
So you can put a lot of your gear right in the bag.
Right, yeah, all of it. I mean, your microphone and all those sorts of things. Yeah. And that is, that's a great thing to have if you're on the road. But it also can serve as the main part of your home studio without having to redesign an entire room and taking the old legendary sledgehammer and putting another wing in your house.
Yeah, that in conjunction with a few other really inexpensive practical solutions, they work great together. So check that out. I think he's done some major improvements to that to make it, way more solid. Yeah. So
well, and as soon as he sends us one to test out, Harlan, we'll demonstrate it here on this very show.
Yeah, we will, actually.
From coast to coast, and you'll get to see how this thing works. Maybe we should try and do the show with one of us actually using the mic, the Porta Studio.
I think I would be a good candidate because you're already in a good studio, but I'm just in an office, so I think I might be a good candidate for that.
That's true. I mean, you've got traffic noise and that sort of thing.
Just a room here.
Yeah. So anyway.
Thanks, Harlan.
Yes. VoiceOverEssentials.com. One word. Check it out. He's got books. He's got other equipment, mic stands, and all the things you need for being a voice actor. So why don't we go to another commercial here, and we'll be right back with our special guest. In the modern world of voiceover, whether you've got years of experience or you're a newbie, having a home studio is essential. A home studio is a unique environment. Every voice is different. Every room is different. Advice from friends is great, but you need someone with the experience of setting up hundreds of home voiceover studios. I'm Dan Lenard, the home studio master. Let me show you the best place in your home to set up, the right equipment, and how to properly use recording software. Plus, I troubleshoot your home studio nightmares. Wherever in the world you are, having a home studio is essential, but that doesn't mean you have to be a recording engineer. Let me show you how easy it is. Go to homestudiomaster.com or email me at homestudiomaster@verizon.net. I guarantee results.
All right, we are back. Well, I wanted to tell you we do actually have a guest this week, and he happens to be sitting right next to me. He's Mr. Dan Lenard. I figured what better guest would be to be on the show than one who's actually physically here with us in the studio.
It's always much better when we have an actual guest in the studio itself.
Yeah, it's always more fun. It's more interactive. So Dan Lenard is our special guest this week. Hey, Dan.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming in. No, I just wanted to, I thought it'd be great to learn a little bit more about you, because we've really been trying to not focus too much on ourselves during the show and answer a lot of questions, but I thought this might be a neat opportunity to learn a little bit more about how it is that you've been able to maintain your voiceover career all these years, and what have you been doing to keep it going? But really, what made you think that you could actually get into this industry? What inspired you to become a voice talent?
It happened by accident. I mean, I studied broadcasting in college back when Gerald Ford was president. And my intention was to go into radio, and I did. And I had a 15-year career in broadcasting, radio stations. I was a booth announcer for a television station in Buffalo. And, did I achieve the level of stardom that everybody wants when they're in their 20s and 30s? Yeah, not really. But I did finally get into management and running a station and doing a morning show, which I'll never do again. For any of you radio guys out there who've ever done a morning show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I left radio, it's 2011. It's been 20 years since I did radio. A short little stint, maybe I'll get back into it. Radio changed when a lot of the FCC changed some rules about ownership and stuff like that. And suddenly everything became pre-canned and satellite, and there was no creativity to it. And I'm a creative person, and I tried to find creative ways to make the station I was running competitive in our marketplace. And the signal wasn't strong enough, and it really didn't work out. And I said, this is the way radio's going. I really got to get out of it. And I did. And I sold life insurance for a while, proud of it. Life insurance is important stuff. You've got to protect your family and stuff. And I learned all about financial products. And I had an uncle who owned an insurance agency.
It never hurts to know some facts about financial. And when it comes to running your own business, which is what we are all doing,
that's right.
It really helps to have some of that.
I'll tell you, if you want to, all you voice actors out there, cold calling, try selling insurance and learn what cold calling is all about. Eventually we learned the rule of 23. For every 23 no's you get, you'll get a yes. You'll get one yes. So you try to add up, well, how much money am I going to make? And you figure for every call is worth about $25. So every time you say, hi, I'm Dan Lenard from such financial group, clink, thanks for the $25. And then dial the next number.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. I learned a lot of neat stuff about
staying
sales.
Positive about sales.
Right. And I think I broke a couple of telephones getting a little bit not quite happy with having to do that. Because I've never been comfortable making cold calls and stuff like that.
Me neither.
And but it tends to break down your comfort zone a little bit. And then somebody suggested to me, I believe it was my mother-in-law, if she's watching, said, you're really good with American history and you understand government. Why don't you become a social studies teacher? 2.5 years later, earning a New York State teacher certificate, I found a job on my first interview teaching high school social studies, 11th grade, U.S. history and the Constitution, and learned an awful lot about the Constitution, got to study at Harvard for a little short bit, and started teaching. And I love teaching. Teaching was just a natural for me, being an actor, it was going to be in front of an audience, especially an audience that's this close and
captive.
Right, very captive, until the bell rang. And it's an interesting subject, and it's still something I still study a lot and read a lot about and narrate about, which is, I just narrated some biographies of both Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, and I actually understood what I was talking about, and due to political reasons, we'll put it to that. I worked at 2 different districts, and then public education and I parted ways, as we say.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed at home and helped raise my kids a little bit, but finished my master's degree, and somehow my master's project was something that turned into a radio documentary, and I had to have the equipment for it. And suddenly one day, wait a second, I can do all the stuff I did in radio production on my computer. I knew how to edit. I mean, after
was that the eureka moment? I mean, was that the eureka moment when you
there
discovered
there were several eureka moments.
I mean, because listen, I mean, think about how many of us go through life listening to voiceovers and not having a clue that that's a business.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, at some point you discover that.
That's right. I mean, I can email this stuff off. Shouldn't I be able to do? So what did I do? I type in voiceover, and like when Dorothy opens the door of her house after the tornado and everything's in black and white, and you're in Munchkin Land and it was all color, this entire world, all you people were out there. Actually, none of you were out there at that time. Just a few, whose names I won't mention. But there was...
you got to name years, man. What year would you say this was?
This was 2003.
Okay. I wasn't involved in voiceover at all at that point.
Yeah, and I discovered the peer-to-peer sites, and I did my cold calling, made my own demo because I actually knew how from my days in radio and management and as production director, knew how to make commercials. And, I auditioned for commercials, but, most of the stuff I did was local commercials. So I wasn't getting any national spots, but what I was getting was audiobooks, nonfiction audiobooks, because it was teaching.
Yeah, it's natural to you.
And I've drifted into doing a tremendous amount of e-learning material, where I am teaching all sorts of weird stuff, like how to install your remote control access locks, to how to surgically implant a bifurcated arterial stent graft. So
say that 5 times fast.
I have actually, this is the kind of stuff that really is the majority of voiceover work out there. But how I drifted into doing the home studio master is you guys started writing to me. It's like, I see you on this, and how do you fix this? And then someone would tell somebody else, this guy knows how to fix this. This guy understands how to do that.
You must have just been out there answering questions.
I was.
First of all, yeah.
Yeah. And I was being nice about it. And I'm like, people like me. And then I decided, this needs to be a business as well. And my primary way of making a living is doing voice work, which I thoroughly enjoy. But I have found talking with our clients, that's the best part about it. We were having lunch this afternoon, and you were saying it's wonderful to see the weight taken off of people's shoulders after they've had hours of mind-numbing frustration.
The best thing about working with voice talent is they're expressive with their voices. So, I mean, even if I don't see them, I hear them. I hear it in their voice, the way it changes. They start sighing with sighs of relief. It's the best thing.
Exactly. So I just love being the home studio master. And then we met at Voice 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And
you were volunteering. And I was a newbie speaker. I never had spoken publicly in my life.
Yeah. And
Dan gave me some tips before I stepped on.
Well, you were trying to make it a little bit complex.
Of course.
But you don't do that anymore. And I simplified it for you, and the rest, as they say, is history.
I think the moral of the story here is that all of these life experiences that Dan just took you through,
all has led for a while too.
Yeah, all has led to his career as it is today. So all your life experiences lead to what makes you you as a voice talent and why you're unique. So, don't try to model yourself after somebody else. It never hurts to have idols. It never hurts to have someone that, a Don LaFontaine who you look up to, who's a legend. It never hurts to have those people, but don't imitate them.
Right. You got to be yourself.
Yeah, you got to be yourself, especially if you want to try to get to the echelon of starting to have an agent. And I know Dan just went through this. It's like he has to be himself because that agent already has 15 other voices that do these other things. And if you do one of those things, what do I need another one of those guys for? I already got that guy.
That's right. So, and it's what's fun. A lot of people say, how do I get an agent? How about being good at what you do and having confidence in what you do? And,
confidence.
Do I think I have a lot of talent? I think everybody has a talent for doing something. But I've been practicing it for years. And when I was ready, they came to me. I didn't have to really go to them. And that, of course, has made my voiceover career a lot more fun. But I got to say, what you and I do and working with other people, this is the greatest, because it's fun to watch you guys solve your problems, learn what good audio is. And that's what I'm about. That's what George is about. And that's why we have East West Audio Body Shop.
Yeah. It's like being now that I am a parent, now I know what it feels like to be a proud parent, where you see that child do something that they never did before. And it's the same thing
she's
for
walking,
us.
She's talking.
Yeah. Well, she's recording without background noise. She's learned how to edit so you don't hear the clicks and pops. It's like all that kind of stuff. It's
exactly
the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
You get out of it. So.
All right. Well, you can finish the interview and go to the break since I'm the special guest. It's
Special
been a pleasure
guest, Dan.
being here, by the way.
Thanks, Dan.
We got Bad Audio of the Week coming up. All right, go ahead.
Dan and I work great together because he really comes at it from the talent point of view. And I don't. I'm learning more and more about the talent point of view.
And you love every second of it. You're just sucking it up.
But I've worked with over 400 voice actors at this point, and so I'm getting it. I'm starting to understand your point of view. But Dan brings that experience, which is so fantastic, and why he's so good at really getting into the root of the issue.
Hey, you guys want us to write a book?
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think we should write a book?
We've got enough material probably to write the sixth book of the Bible. So we're
thinking about it.
We're thinking about it. So if you guys want a book, you write to us at EWABShop at gmail.com.
Yeah.
EWABShop with one S at gmail.com, and we'll see if we can come up with something that all you East West Audio Body Shop fans want to read and have as a good reference for a lot of the stuff we teach you.
I think we should do it. Well,
Dan,
Dan,
thank you. Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks for being a guest on the show.
I wish it was under better circumstances, but I'll take any opportunity I can to come out to LA and always hang out with you.
Having you here in person is really special. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Well, we'll give you a little message here, and we'll wrap up the show with some bad audio of the week.
Oh, really bad audio.
So everybody stand by, and we'll be right back.
And we're back. One more time. I got to stop copying, what's his name, Jimmy Fallon, and doing that.
No,
and we're back. All right. Yes. Anyway, in our last segment here, we want to cover something I think a lot of you folks out there really need to understand, especially those of you coming out of the broadcasting world. And so let's just go to Bad Audio of the Week, and we'll explain what's going on here.
Yeah, that ain't it.
I wonder what that was then.
Here it is.
Is this thing on?
I got it.
And now it's time for another exciting episode of Bad Audio of the Week.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
With throttle body fuel injection. Ah, white beaches, cool breezes, orange sunsets, romance throughout. Cancun and Puerto Plata. Entertaining guests this season? One visit to the Linen Collection is all it takes to make your whole home guest ready. The Linen Collection has quality tableware, including placemats, napkins, and tablecloths.
Ice trips. I've had a few. Jamaica Town. That caused dissension.
It began as a vision of a community in the valley, of a town nestled against the banks of a gently flowing river. Fast, accurate information is fundamental to the ongoing success of any business enterprise, regardless of its size. As Canada's leading courier service, we play an important role in the transmission of that information. The standard engine on the Fleetwood is Cadillac's biggest, a 5.7-liter V8 with throttle body fuel injection.
White beaches, cool breezes, orange sunsets, romance throughout. Cancun and Puerto Plata.
Entertaining guests this season? One visit to the Linen Collection is all it takes to make your whole home
I
guest
didn't hear
ready.
him sing that.
The Linen Collection has
Okay,
quality
let's come back.
tableware, including placemats,
3,
napkins, and
2.
tablecloths.
Ice trips.
All right. All right, quiz. What was wrong with that? Now, somebody sent me this week, and we're not playing it to make fun of him because we're gonna help him out. This is a guy clearly very, very talented. Got a good voice. Been working in the radio business for a long time. Sent me to this is my demo. What do you think? And there are a couple of major flaws with it. One of them is not his voice. You know, he's a good voice actor. You know, he understands announcing, that sort of thing. But the audio quality wasn't very good. I could use some other terminology.
You sound like an 8-track tape.
It sounded like an 8-track tape. It sounded, I think I described it to him, it sounds like, is this your demo from like the 1960s or something?
Right. It sounded dated.
It sounded very dated. It sounded analog. It was done before digital stuff. I mean,
Way before.
it was probably some stuff that was on tape.
Sure.
Probably
reel-to-reel.
over the last 20 or 30 years.
Reel to reel cassette.
Yeah. Now, you and I discussed this week. It's, the thing is should a demo show all the great breadth and depth of the stuff you've done?
Yeah.
Or the old adage of what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
I was always taught in demo school, because when you're in radio, it's like, I gotta do another air check. I gotta get out of this station. You've got to have contemporary stuff. What have you done that people will recognize or sounds contemporary? So it sounds like you're working at least in that time period.
Yeah.
And this stuff was ancient because I think you mentioned some product in there is not even around anymore. But also it sounded hissy. It sounded like it was on radio in 1972.
Right.
And you can't do that with a commercial demo. Commercial demos should be professionally produced. Unless you're a professional that knows how to produce demos, you really shouldn't. Couple of reasons for that. One, you need to be directed. You really need to have somebody who understands commercial voiceover, and the same for narration too. Somebody who can say, let's do that another way. Can you be a little slower on that? You need to learn how to be directed. That's really the most essential part of being a voice actor is you've got to be able to take one criticism.
Part of the learning curve of doing a demo in the first place.
That's right.
It's part of the learning experience of having a demo produced for you. Is for many people, it's probably the first time they're ever directed.
Exactly.
And huge.
You've got to learn how to do that. I know a lot of you take classes and stuff like that, and that's taking direction. Your coach or somebody who knows how to do demos should do them. And George and I both know guys that do demos, and we're always happy to recommend them, depending on who you are, where you are, because generally it's best to be in the same place that person is, somebody who knows how to do that. Or a coach that you're working with who also produces demos, but they've got to be good. They've got to have a very good reputation.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No.
I happened to sit in on a workshop taught by Bill Ratner at the Don LaFontaine Voiceover Lab about demos. So I just happened to be engineering it that day. And there was a little bit of topic that came up about using old material. And it is about showing the breadth of your material. It can't just only be old, though. But he said that no matter what it is, old, new, it has to be the best, the absolute best that you got. And so, you can have some really contemporary material and then maybe dial it back 20 years And if you are an experienced talent, that shows that you are experienced. If it's all brand new stuff where it sounds like it was just recorded yesterday, top to bottom, that might smack a little bit of, being kind of wet behind the ears. So
yeah, it shows. Trust
Yeah,
me. For the
so-
people who know what they're looking for, and as I always like to say, what's bad, I can't define it, but I'll know it when I hear it.
When I hear it, yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyway.
and a really good demo producer will understand techniques that will create each spot to sound like they were recorded in a different studio
Right.
at a different time. He even knows how to dial back the fidelity if he wanted to make something sound like it was a little more dated.
Absolutely.
A good demo producer is going to do that, because if every single cut in your demo sounds like it was recorded in the same 30-minute session with the same mic, it doesn't have the authenticity. I mean, you don't have everything in your demo doesn't have to be work you've already done. People think, well, I'm just getting started. I don't have all this reels of material. Well, that's why you hire a producer to write you a script, find you the music, and create something that sounds completely authentic. I mean, I've listened to demos and wondered and thought, wow, really? He did a Pepsi campaign? No, he didn't. But he just had a really well-produced demo.
And it shows that you can do it,
Mm-hmm.
and that you can do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, if you contact us, we'll be happy to send you to the right people and in the right direction, because we both know people that are very good at doing demos. I've thought about actually doing them. And that may be another thing that I'll get into. And the wife's like, now what are you doing down there?
Diversify.
Yeah, diversify a little bit further.
I even thought about it one time of doing it as well, but I realized that it is a skill that takes years of honing. Dan, coming from radio, he has production skills. Even though I understand what goes into making a demo successful, I don't have the experience of doing it. I didn't want to open that's creating a new business, marketing a new product, and I just didn't want to go there. But there's a lot of people out there that have that going on. So seek them out and ask us, and we'll be happy to send you some people that you could work with.
Yes. Well, my wife just texted me asking me if she has time to have a pedicure, and I'm like, no, time to come back over here now. So
Time to come back to reality.
Yeah, come back to reality. Get a nice pedicure in Santa Monica while you're here. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure to have you, Dan.
Oh, it's always great to get together with you, and it's fun doing this show with you. And next week, I think we actually have a guest.
We actually do, but yes,
An actual human guest
we're going
as
to
opposed
have.
to me.
As far as I know, we're having John Taylor here in the studio.
John
next
Taylor's
week.
going to be here next week. Okay.
In the studio.
Oh,
yeah.
we loved having John Taylor on.
Yeah.
And that always makes it a little bit more interesting. So we'll be back next Sunday evening here on East West Audio Body Shop. And that'll be at 9 o'clock Eastern Time and 6 p.m. out in the Pacific Coast where we are. We're
gonna
like 2
keep
blocks
that
from
time.
the ocean here. It's amazing.
We're going to keep that time zone going. I think that works well.
And I think I broke your chair again. So much for that crazy glue. Anyway, I'm Dan Lenard, not in the East tonight.
And I'm George Woodham in the West with Dan.
We're East West Audio Body Shop. Have yourself a great week. We'll see you next
Take care,
time.
everybody.